Detecting additional hostile contacts. Heavily armored hostile detected. Hostiles guarding location nearby. Incoming hostiles detected. Heavily armed. Hostile supply convoy nearby.
If you guys are interested in being a member, then click the join button down below to check out the available perks. The first tier is only $1. Thank you to those of you who choose to join. What's up, Mod Squad? Welcome to another Division 2 build breakdown video. If you're already subscribed to me, then don't forget to smash that like button, as it really helps push our videos into the recommended section, which in turn helps the channel grow. Interaction is a big part of what helps us in the YouTube algorithm, and the extra support is very much appreciated. With that said, let's get into the video. Today I'll be showcasing my 280% critical hit damage DPS skill damage hybrid build for legendary and heroic content. Now, I'm not a big skill build user, and the main reason for that is because skill builds get boring pretty fast. When using a skill build, you don't feel very engaged in the content because the skills do 95% of the work, meaning you barely have to shoot your weapon unless you're proccing talents. With today's build, that is not the case, because the more you shoot, the better. Today's build, we will take one of the best, if not the best PVE DPS sets in the game and combine it with the benefits of an all-out skill build. This way you're shredding multiple enemies with your assault rifle while your skills are distracting NPCs and doing a decent amount of damage to them as well. At full stacks with this build, you'll be hitting over 600k crits to the body with your assault rifle and 100k plus per bullet with your turret or drone. Some of you might be confused as to how we hit 280% critical hit damage, so I'll explain. The base critical hit damage on this build is 200%. An extra 40% is gained thanks to the Negotiator's 4-piece, and finally the sidearm, which has the perfect finisher talent, gives us an extra 40% critical hit damage. So in order to hit that 280%, you'll need to be at full Negotiator stacks and finish off an enemy with your sidearm. Switch back to your capacitor and you'll have 280% critical hit damage and 60% critical hit chance. I find when it comes to legendary missions, the majority of players either use a all-out focus red DPS build or a all-out skill damage build. Now, the capacitor allows us to gain weapon damage from yellow cores, which made me think, why not combine them to get the best of both worlds. What's also great about the capacitor is it has a type of C79 scope, which allows you to play the build very much like the all red focus builds. This is a build you want to use from distance, as you have very little armor due to speccing into red and yellow cores. The main source of survivability for this build comes from 3% armor regen, which is perfect for the playstyle which is required for this build. To avoid being shredded by NPCs, I recommend not sitting close to your skills, as your skills serve as not only a source of damage but a distraction, so take full advantage of that. This build's all about hitting enemies from multiple angles and doing as much damage as fast as possible. You could potentially damage up to 5 enemies at a time with this build. Now I spoke a little bit about the build and showcase some of what it's capable of, let's get into a build breakdown. Right guys, getting into the build breakdown, starting off with the specialization, we are using the Technician. We're using this because we get 12% damage to drones, skill proxies and robotics. We will be going against the White Tusk if you're playing in Legendary, and they use a lot of robotics, so that 12% comes in handy. The armor kit is very good, believe it or not. If you're turret takes too much damage, all you have to do is get up close to it within that 10 meters, hit a medkit, and you will actually heal your own skill. So it's pretty nice to have. You can also recall your drone and it will do the same thing. We get the 1 free skill tier that helps us get to tier 6. You also get the artificial hive, so if you want to take away one of your skills and just boost one of your skills, use the artificial hive because it will give it a nice big efficiency buff. And finally, you also gain an extra 10% skill damage. Starting off with the prime weapon, which is the exotic assault rifle, the capacitor. Brilliant weapon. This weapon makes the build mainly because of the second part of its talent, which is for each skill tier gain 7.5% weapon damage. This allows us to switch out all our red cores to yellow cores, making this the skill build DPS hybrid that it is. Reading the rest of the talent, shooting enemies build stacks up to a cap of 40. Each stack grants 1.5% skill damage. After 5 seconds stacks decay 1 per second. So not only does this build allow us to do weapon damage, but it allows us to stack up on skill damage. Looking at the total base damage, we have 110.6k base damage. We have 700 RPM, which isn't the fastest nor slowest. We have 41 in the magazine, which is probably the main downside to this weapon, because apart from that, it's actually a very good assault rifle, very accurate, very great with its stability as well. It's just obviously low on the mag size. So we have 14.7% assault rifle damage, 12% damage to armor, and then 9% health damage. Moving on to the attachments, we have 10% critical hit chance on the scope. We have 30% critical hit damage on the muzzle, which just screams to me perfect for this combination of build. Moving on to the grip, we have 10% weapon handling, and then finally the magazine gives us the extra 11 rounds. I feel like they should change that to 20, put this up to 51, and it would be spot on. Moving on to our secondary, and I have the classic M1A, 340k base damage, 180 RPM with 15 in the magazine, and I'm using Boomerang as a talent. Critical hits have a 50% chance to return the bullet to the magazine. If a bullet is returned to the magazine, the next shot has a 40% increased damage. When it comes to the attachments, we have 5% crit chance on the scope, 5% crit chance on the laser pointer, and the magazine gives us the extra 5 rounds. And onto the sidearm, which is a very important part of this build if you want to get up to that 280% critical hit damage. We have the Orbit giving us perfect finisher. Swapping from this weapon within 10 seconds of killing an enemy grants 35% critical hit chance, so that makes up for the lack of crit chance on this build at standard. And then we have 40% critical hit damage for 15 seconds. It's actually really easy to proc this, guys, once you get in the habit of doing it. Looking at the attachments on this weapon, we have 5% crit chance on the sight, and then we have the drum, which gives us 20% reload speed. Moving on to the gear pieces now, starting off with our mask, and we have the Negotiator's Dilemma mask. The 2-piece Negotiator's Dilemma gives us 15% critical hit chance, the 3-piece gives us 20% critical hit damage, and the 4-piece Hostile Negotiations gives us critical hit marks enemies for 20 seconds up to 3 marks total. When you critically hit a marked enemy, all other marked enemies take 60% of the damage dealt. Whenever a marked enemy dies, gain 2% critical hit damage, stacking up to 20 times or until combat ends. And on this mask, we have 1 skill tier, 10.5% critical hit damage, and a mod giving us 12% critical hit damage. Moving on to our chest piece, we have a Grupo Sombra chest piece giving us 15% critical hit damage. We have 14.2% weapon damage, 11.4% critical hit damage, 5.7% critical hit chance, and 12% critical hit damage via a mod. And the glass cannon talent, all damage you deal is amplified by 25%, all damage you take is amplified by 50%. Now that amplified damage you take won't matter as much because you will be playing from the very back. That is the playstyle that is needed for this build if you're going to use it. In Legendary you don't rush in regardless, so make sure you sit back, be mindful of the damage you can take, but it's worth it because Glass Cannon gives not only weapon damage but it amplifies your skill damage as well. Moving on to our Negotiator's Dilemma holster, we have 1 skill tier and 9.6% critical hit damage. Not the greatest of rolls there, it's going to need some optimization as you can see, but the standard 200 critical hit damage that this would be a little bit higher if I had max rolls on the crit damage rolls. Onto our knee pads, which are Negotiator's Dilemma. We have 1 skill tier and again 11.4% critical hit damage, which I'm trying to optimize to get higher. Our Negotiator's Dilemma gloves are also 1 skill tier and 11% critical hit damage. And then finally, our backpack, which is the Memento, and it's actually really important for this build because not only do you gain weapon damage and 30% weapon damage from the long term buff, but you also gain 30% skill efficiency from the long term buff as well. For every trophy collected, gain an additional 1% weapon damage, 1% skill efficiency, and 0.1% armor regeneration for 30 seconds. So that armor regeneration will give us 3% armor regen, which is great again because we're going to be playing from afar. So if you do take any damage, that armor regen will heal you back over and you won't have to waste your time using armor kits. You'll save those armor kits for when you want to heal your skills. Looking at the stats on this backpack, we have 15% weapon damage, 170k armor, so we also gain a little bit of armor for this build to make us a tiny bit more tankier, although we do take that amplified damage. We have 1 free skill tier and then a mod giving us 12% critical hit damage. Moving on to our skills, we have the assault turret. The cooldown is 22 seconds, which doesn't matter too much. It's more about the duration. The duration is 243.6 seconds. The health is 5 million plus. The damage is 71,000 at base damage. You'll be hitting for over 130k per bullet with this, with full stacks. And as you can see, guys, it is a tier 6. Looking at the mods on here, we have 4.6% damage, 7.3% duration and 5.5% duration. The duration is very important, and as you can see, I can get much better mods, make it last longer and hit a little bit harder. Moving on to our striker drone. This is my favorite skill in the game because not only does it do damage when you're using a skill build, obviously, but it is a great distraction. It also pulls enemies out of cover. If you guys have never noticed this before, send your drone over to an enemy that is in cover and they will automatically pop out as soon as your drone goes over and starts shooting at them. So the cooldown is 22.7 seconds again, same as the turret. Health is 2.8 million, duration is 231.3 seconds, and it does near enough 45k damage per bullet. Looking at the mods on here, we have 7.1% duration, 9.2% health and 4.8% damage. And that's pretty much it for the build, guys. I'm going to leave you with a stat sheet, not going to talk over it. Don't forget, if you enjoyed this video, if it helped you out in any way, smash that like button as it really does help support the channel. Leave a comment down below and I'll reply like I always do. I hope you enjoyed the video and I'll catch you. What's up, Mod Squad? MOB back with another Division 2 build breakdown video. So 500k crits, a tier 6 drone that shreds, adding to your weapon DPS, and let's not forget the OP tier 6 self healing. Say hello to the new all red DPS build, but without all the reds, and way better. Today I bring you another build without a shield, as I know many of you hate those shields, and if you're one of those people, then make sure you smash that like button because you're going to like this build. For many updates, the all red AR rifle build was the go-to build for many in the community, and many of you still use it to this very day. Players love this build for all the damage it put out, but dislike the lack of survivability. Using this build forces you to play slow, play in cover and play from a long distance at all times, and honestly all the build ever really offered was high damage. Well, today's build you'll be hitting hard, healing fast and having skills that add to your weapon damage. This build is a true hybrid. Now although this build is better than the all red build, you need to keep the same playstyle, play from distance, use cover and don't try face tanking, as the heals on this build are strong, but no amount of healing will save such a low armor build from being shredded. Today's build is capable of taking on legendary content and making heroic content easy. Now I know the majority of you still farm heroic over legendary, so I'm pretty sure you guys will like this one. I said earlier this build is the all red build without all the reds. The reason I said that is because this build has 6 yellows and each yellow gives us 7.5% weapon damage. So we gain both skill tiers and weapon damage from yellow cores. How, you ask? Well, that's thanks to the second part of the exotic assault rifle, the capacitor's talent. For each skill tier gains 7.5% weapon damage. Now each red core gives us 15% weapon damage at max, but using yellows we gain half of that at 7.5%. So we are of course not hitting as hard as the all red DPS build, but we are still hitting hard enough to shred anything. Not much lives when you're hitting for 500k crits. Along with 6 skill tiers, we also have 2 red cores, so overall we are missing 37.5% weapon damage when compared to the all red DPS build of old. In my opinion, this is made up thanks to the striker drone, which can hit up to 63k per bullet and has one hell of a fire rate. So the damage we sacrifice to have yellow cores, we make back in skill damage. That again is thanks to the capacitor, which while shooting enemies build stacks up to a cap of 40, each stack grants 1.5% skill damage. After 5 seconds, stacks start to decay 1 per second. Having this talent means we don't have to spec into skill damage with our gear pieces or talents, which you can do if you want to, if you feel you want to be hitting harder with your drone. It just means sacrificing either some weapon damage or healing. And that's the great thing about this build, you can change it in many ways to fit your liking, adding more skill damage, healing or crit damage by sacrificing a little bit of something else. It's all about finding the balance, what works for you. Because remember guys, these builds, they're templates for you to work off and are made to my liking. All I can say for certain about the builds I put out is they are effective and fulfill the purpose they were built for. I will say another big part of this build is Memento backpack, as it's the perfect piece to have for any hybrid build. It just offers so much in terms of damage, survivability and skill efficiency, making it so we don't have to overspec with our gear pieces and talents. Before we get into the build breakdown, a quick reminder to hit that like button if you've enjoyed this video, as it helps push out our videos into the recommended section and in turn helps the channel grow. If this build has helped you out in any way, then leave a comment down below and let me know, and don't forget to share this build to help others. With that said, let's get into a build breakdown. Moving on to the prime weapon, the capacitor, the new exotic assault rifle in the game. We have 91.9k base damage, that goes up to around 130 when fully stacked. We have 700 RPM and 41 in a mag. This needs a bit of optimizing. As you can see, we have 14.7% assault rifle damage and 9% health damage, and we have 12% damage to armor, so that's maxed out. Then we have the talent. If you guys want to go over that in greater detail, feel free to pause the video. We're going to look at the attachments. We have 10% critical hit chance from the scope. We have 30% critical hit damage. 30%. That is crazy for an attachment. 30% critical hit damage on the muzzle. We have 10% weapon handling on the grip, and then the magazine gives us an extra 11 rounds. I can't get over that attachment. 30%. That's crazy. Moving on to our gear now, starting off with the R&K mask. We have 20% incoming repairs from this mask. We get 1 skill tier. We have 12% critical hit damage, 5.1% critical hit chance, and 12% critical hit damage via a mod. Moving on to the chest piece, we have a Fenris chest piece giving us 10% assault rifle damage. We have 13% weapon damage, 11.1% critical hit damage, 3.7% critical hit chance, a low roll, and then a mod giving us 19.8% incoming repairs. This is going to aid our healing. So we have the talent Obliterate. Critical hits increase total weapon damage by 1% for 5 seconds, stacks up to 25 times. Just a really good talent to use, and seeing as we're going to be constantly stacking the capacitor to get the skill damage, it just makes sense to use Obliterate. Moving on to the holster, we have a Seska holster giving us 10% critical hit chance. I rolled that for 1 skill tier. We have 12% critical hit damage and 6% critical hit chance. Moving on to the Memento, all maxed out. As you can see, we have a mod giving us 19.5% incoming repairs. If you guys want to go over this talent, feel free to pause the video. This is a big part of this build, and I honestly don't know what else you'd put in its place. This piece does so much for the build. So for those of you who say I haven't got the backpack, I'm sorry, you're going to have to find a way to get it. Moving on to the gloves, we have Grupo Sombra gloves giving us 15% critical hit damage. I rolled those for 1 skill tier as well, 11.5% critical hit damage and 6% critical hit chance. And finally, the Fox pair knee pads giving us 10% rifle damage. It does apply to our rifle, guys. I know a lot of you get kind of triggered when you use a brand set that's for a different weapon and you're not using that weapon. So we have 1 skill tier, 8% damage targets out of cover, and 10.2% critical hit damage. Now what you could also do, because you have armor damage on the capacitor, you can switch out for contractor gloves with the same rolls, and then obviously put the Grupo knee pads there instead, just so you can stack up on that armor damage. Moving on to our skills now, we have the striker drone, my favourite skill in the game. It's a great distraction. This also kills NPCs as well, so that's going to drop trophies. It's a tier 6. When it comes to the mods, you can see 7.1% duration, 9.2% health and 4.8% damage. Moving on to the chem launcher, guys. The chem launcher is back. I'm having so much fun using this thing. It's a tier 6. As you can see, 108k repair over time. I believe that goes up to around 135 when fully buffed. Moving on to the mods, we have 6.8% heal and then the extra ammo. And as you can see, we get 9 of those. So we're rarely ever running out of heals. I don't think I've ever run out of heals, to be totally honest. I don't spam them like that. You honestly don't need to, because they're down for a good duration of 6 seconds as well. And they have a pretty big radius. So that is pretty much it for the build, guys. We're going to go through the stat sheet real quick. So as you can see here for the capacitor, 50.8% critical hit chance. That's where you want to be at the very least. I am max watch level as well. 50% is where I'm happy at. I can get a little bit more than that if I max out my rolls. I have 158.8% critical hit damage. That allows me to be hitting for 500k crits. If I drop that and put in another income repair mod, obviously my heals would be better, but I'll hit a little less than 500k. But I feel like 500k is a sweet spot, especially for legendary content. We have 75% headshot damage, 12% armor damage, which if you put the contractor gloves in will be a lot higher. Then we have 9% health damage, 28 meter range, and all that good stuff. Looking at the secondary, the rifle, 50.8% critical hit chance, and then 141.8% critical hit damage, 8% headshot damage, and 6% armor damage. Gonna switch back to the capacitor real quick and then jot down the rest of the stats, and I'm gonna leave you guys with it. Not gonna say any more. Don't forget to smash that like button to help us grow, to help support the channel. Leave a comment down below, guys. Let me know what you think. Honestly, this is a build you definitely want to try out. It is a lot of fun to use, and it's one of those jack of all trades. You have crazy damage, you have really good healing, and you have skill damage. So enjoy, guys. Enjoy the footage I'm gonna leave you, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out, Mob Squad.